What's up, dude?
And we're back.
Yeah. How's it
So,
going?
what do we have on the docket today?
Yeah, so I mean, just for the audience here, we're just going to be shooting a little bit, talking about other things besides dating, because there's a lot more in the world besides women. So yeah, Olympics just started, man. Are you a big Olympic guy?
No, not really. When I
Okay.
was younger, I used to watch them. That's because there's really nothing else on to watch. I did hear some people at work with one of my corporate clients this morning talking about it, so I'll probably tune in.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure with things that are going on globally, it might be a big to-do in terms of protests or riots or heaven forbid like a terrorist attack or something, or it'll just be kind of a big nothing burger. But I'm sure there's a lot of craziness going on in the world right now, and the Olympics is a major international event.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked for the Olympics. So I ran track in high school in cross country, so I always followed the track and field events, and like, dude, it's just crazy how fast they're. Like, so my best mile was 4:39. That was my
4:39?
4:39.
Mine was like, I think officially 7:10 or something like that.
7:10.
But I was overweight as a kid, and then as I got older, I was able to do 3 miles consistently under 20 minutes. That was a benchmark for my training for a long time in my early 20s.
Yeah, so being at 4:39, like I thought I was a complete stud, right? They're running at like 3:50.
Oh, jeez.
Isn't that insane, dude? Like 3:40. They're in the 3:40s for a mile.
And
How fast that is.
Well, that's one of those things years ago to where they were saying that it was impossible to break the 4-minute mile, and then isn't that the story where the one guy did it, and then all of a sudden everyone was able to do it because he just pushed that ability,
Exactly.
perceived limitation.
Dude, literally high schoolers are running 4-minute miles, like under.
Yeah, not crazy.
I like go running here, and it's like I'll run like 2K, 2 kilometers. I'll just be gassed. Like
I think that has to do with the altitude, though.
yeah, that's for sure. Do you do much cardio? What do you do for cardio besides,
I do low intensity steady state cardio in the
Okay.
gym. So depending upon how lean I want to be or how much of a caloric deficit I'm in,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do something up to like 15 minutes every day of the week, maybe a couple 30-minute sessions. Usually I like to get, I train for a total volume model. So usually within a 7-day period, I like to get at least an hour and a half of low intensity steady state.
Okay.
That's typically on the elliptical or something.
Okay. Yeah, you're an elliptical guy.
Yeah, well, I used to run, but I have the bad knees for
Yeah.
sports.
Yep. Yeah, running will do that. Like we have like a massage gun over here, and I gotta use that like pretty much once a week at least because of the knee pain and stuff.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you got to get around the muscle. I've got a goofy one here.
Now I'm curious. I've always wondered about this. Like after the Olympics, like let's say you go, do you think there's like a come down, like from just like, oh my god, we're at the Olympics, and then it just ends, and they're like back in their regular day life?
I can see that. I played baseball growing up, so I know, like most guys, make it out of high school, and then you go to college, and then a very small percentage out of college goes to the minor leagues, and then eventually pro, and that's really true for any sport. But I know at the age, like I knew I wasn't going to go pro in the minor leagues because I just didn't have the natural talent. I was a decent athlete, but for me, like it was well known that it was time for me to hang up my cleats after college.
Sure.
But I know I've known people personally that have made it further along the process, even guys that have gone pro. I have buddies that are pro baseball players, a couple buddies that are pro football players, people in my family even.
Yeah.
And there's always that moment to where you're done.
Yeah.
You've been doing it your whole life, especially at that level for the Olympics. A lot of those guys have been trained since they're like 3, 4, 5 years old. They're bred to compete at the world's highest level in their sport. And then if they don't make it to another Olympics, that's it. I'm assuming there is a come down because I've seen that firsthand with friends of mine that have made it far along in their athletic careers.
Dude, I can't even imagine that like just moment of just working so hard your whole life and being done. One of my buddies in high school that we ran with, he ran for Arkansas. So he ran, like he set state records in Wisconsin. He ran like 4:10 for a mile, or 4:08 I think was his record. Insane, right? He goes to Arkansas, and this is like the biggest thing that since sliced bread basically in Wisconsin. And he's taking like, they have like 300 runners in a collegiate race, and he's in like the 200s.
Jeez.
It was just like a moment of just like, holy shit. Dude, there's so many good athletes out there.
And even at that level, you're the top of the top of the top of the top. And then there's more levels after that a very small percentage, if it even is a single digit percentage point,
Dude, right?
makes it. It's probably a fraction of a percent.
Easily. And so, of course, he found God.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, running was my religion, and so I had to, he turned to spirituality or got religion or whatever.
Well, you do the runner side, don't you?
Oh, it's such a high, dude.
Is that where you went to God? I'm like, well, now I don't have that high kind of next dimension, transcendent type experience, so I need to find it elsewhere.
But you can still run.
Yeah.
So I think it was more of an ego thing. Like, obviously athletes probably have egos. Like,
well, your identity's wrapped up in it. That is your identity.
Yeah, that's ego.
That makes sense.
Yep. So when that's like who you are for your whole life, and then all of a sudden it stops, and we're all gonna go through it. Like, I'm gonna go through it when I hit a certain age, and I can't do the things I used to do anymore. I'm just like, fuck.
Well, that's like they say when people retire. If they don't keep busy or keep doing stuff, then they usually pass along pretty quickly.
Okay.
And I've seen that personally. I've got a set of grandparents in my family that are very, very old, but when they retired, they just kept doing what they were always doing. Like, they still work to this day. Whereas I know people in my family or in my home community to where they retire, or something happens, or heaven forbid they get injured, or we see it all over the country to where entire industries have just been gutted, like the manufacturing base in the U.S., and you essentially fall or slip into dark times because there's nothing. When you're not doing anything, I think that really impacts your identity and your self-esteem. As much as I hate to say it, or I always say, we're not human beings, we're human doings, but a lot of people, and I think probably me included, we wrap our identities up in what is it that we actually do? What is the value we create and put out into the world? If you remove that, then it's kind of like, what am I doing?
And like, going even deeper on that, like, what's scary too is like that people get wrapped up in the value they give to. Like, they create an identity on, like, I'm a giver, right? And I fall in this trap too, and it's like, well, no one, like, besides a few people you help, like, no one's gonna remember. Like,
no.
You're just gonna kind of disintegrate into the ether, and that's like a scary ass thought.
I was thinking that the other day, like all these little musical ideas I have on my phone, or recordings, or photo sessions, or all the content created that's on my phone that has not seen the light of day, that's not been put out there publicly. If something were to happen right now, then it's on the device, but it hasn't been released, and I'm curious how many digital kind of dead assets exist in the universe. Even from our top people, we see it all the time. Or at least when I was a kid, they'd have like the box CD sets of like such and such classic rock bands, unreleased cuts, or B-sides, or deep cuts, or whatever. Like, I think you'll probably see it if you check on your social media. I find it all the time. So-and-so's unreleased recordings, and they just cobble together an album out of it.
Right. Well, like, what about like all the people that are famous, right? Like, and die. Like, if they just sold their stuff or like gave it to someone and they sold it, like, they could make hundreds of thousands of dollars off like a sock or something like very mundane. Like, it just goes into like a dump yard or whatever.
Well, you see that with famous people. They have estates that are worth way more than the artist was, or celebrity, or whatever the famous person was famous for at the time of their life, like Michael Jackson's estate or Elvis's estate.
Yeah.
Like, those are major brands.
Can't even fit. Well, speaking of state, so there's been some crazy stuff going on in the US of A. And I'm not a big politic guy. Like, I don't watch the news or anything, but I know you've been watching a lot because on our YouTube channel I can see the search history.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And thankfully it's not weird stuff, so don't worry, guys. But I'm always like, so yeah, what have you like taken away from this, and like what are your thoughts on everything?
Well, first and foremost, I do not follow politics too terribly much, but it is an election cycle. I do work as a corporate marketing consultant in my professional persona, and for me, it's like the Super Bowl of marketing, which the Super Bowl is actually Super Bowl of marketing. I watch it usually the last few years. None of my teams have ever been in there. I don't really follow sports either. But for Super Bowl, I tune in because I want to see the commercials.
Sure.
Which was tough here in Mexico because they kicked it over to local commercials. Like, no, I want to see the U.S. commercials. So I just had to go on YouTube and watch a compilation of them.
Okay.
But I see the U.S., especially presidential election cycles, as the Olympics. It really is. It's the Olympics of marketing. Because at the end of the day, you're selling ideas, you're selling a narrative, you're selling a vision.
Okay.
Which in the U.S., it's unfortunate. In like most countries, people actually don't look at the agendas. If they were to look at the agendas, there would be a very clear-cut winner. But people are more so, well, how does this person make me feel? Or what do they say? Or what do they represent? And they really just follow the narrative, which it's kind of a scary thought that people that are uneducated on the topics, their vote is exactly the same as mine.
Interesting.
Which again, living here in Mexico, especially, there are consequences to what happens in the U.S. It's nice not living there anymore because we're not caught up in the absurdity or the circus-like nature of the political circuit. But living abroad, I still make money in dollars, and that's really what I'm focused on. Looking at that exchange rate, I'd rather have it go in my favor instead of against our favor.
That's the only reason I want X candidate to win. But I haven't voted in probably 10, 12 years. And I just remember always my mom was like, your vote matters. I'm like, Mom, it really doesn't.
You're from Wisconsin, it doesn't really matter. Actually, no, this time around it does.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's safely red, or I think it's a swing state. I believe it's in play, and it'll likely come down to Wisconsin and or a combination of states in that region, which you guys kind of messed it up last time.
Dude, I'm from Korea, so I
yeah, right.
classified. I was brought
you
there.
Identified as Wisconsin?
Nope. I was brought there against my own free will.
Yeah.
So yeah, Wisconsin sucks, guys. If you've ever been there, it's beautiful for like 2 days, and then you're just there's just no soul or spirit. It's a lot of eating. It's a lot of dairy. So people are very overweight there.
I remember the fish fries.
Ah, fuck. He did give me fish fries are amazing.
Those are
amazing. Yeah, the fish is good. Yeah. So Wisconsin is going to be a big part of this year, but even though what does one person actually matter? And what is your opinion on that? You're
in this election cycle, there's one party where the person doesn't really matter at all.
Yeah.
The person we have in office now is clearly a figurehead. He's obviously not there. Doesn't matter where you really lean politically, but if you just have two eyes, it's pretty obvious we have a Manchurian candidate at this point. So on that side, I believe there's a whole machine behind it. It's kind of orchestrating what's going on, and then you have your puppeteers behind the scenes, and the person out front, which is technically the candidate, but he's obviously not pulling the strings. They're being pulled by someone else, and it was actually the previous president of his administration.
Okay.
First U.S. president that didn't leave Washington, D.C. after serving his 2 terms or his final term after not being reelected. In this case, he couldn't be reelected because he served his 2 terms.
It's us, guys.
Yeah, right. And then the other candidate, it literally is a figurehead. He completely broke and reformed his entire party, and the entire party's rallied behind him. So it'll be really interesting, and I think it'll essentially come down to: do you want more of what's happened in the last 4 years?
Okay.
Or do you want to return to the previous 4-year period? So I think that's. I know you're going to hear all of the nonsense in the media or whatever, but I think the campaign messaging will really come down to record against record. Here's my record. Looks like it's now going to be her record. Which do you prefer?
Gotcha. Well, I want the peso to go in our favor, or the dollar to go in our favor.
I kind of liked making money. It was really nice. As a millennial, about the time I was graduating college, it was the global economic recession. So when I was a freshman, guys in my same career path were coming out with 6-figure jobs, and this was 6 figures in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Then when I came through, boom, world economy tanked. All right, so we kind of had stagflation for years, nothing really happened. Ups and downs in my career, really for almost a decade or so. And then there's a period of boom, hyper growth to where jobs were abundant and salaries were high and benefits were good, and your day-to-day living expenses and essentials were relatively low, or at least they remained constant rather than went up. And then obviously we've seen these last few years, every time I go back to the U.S., it's crazy. People in my family will say something like, oh yeah, no, this store's all out of milk, or they don't have bacon, or there's no eggs, and then when they do have it, it's crazy prices.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to list the prices, because every time I go home, which isn't too often anymore, everything is considerably higher. But incomes aren't going up, and taxes aren't going down.
Dude, I went to the U.S. a month ago, right? And McDonald's was $5 for French fries.
Isn't that nuts?
I couldn't believe it. $3 for a burger. I'm just and that was just fast food, right? So
even a few years ago, they still had the dollar menu.
Yeah, they don't have it anymore.
For $3.21, whatever your local state sales tax rate is, 7, 8 cents on the dollar. For $3.21, 24 cents, you could get a pretty decent meal in terms of caloric content, not decent in terms of nutrition at all.
Nope. It freaking went to Chick-fil-A. It was probably $10, $11 for a sandwich and fries, right? It was nothing fancy. Five Guys was $11. I went to a lot of fast food restaurants, if you couldn't tell. Jimmy John's went up, Subway, all those restaurants. It's so expensive, and even you go to the grocery store and it's you know, you get a pint of ice cream, it's like $5, $6, and it's just, people aren't like making bank there.
Fast food costs the equivalent of what it used to for like kind of like a mid-level sit-down meal at like a TGI Fridays or Applebee's or one of those.
Yeah. And those are like nights out. You're like, okay, we're going to Applebee's, we're going to spend a little extra.
Oh, I do the 2 for $20 at Applebee's, or like what was it, like the $20 bottomless apps at TGI. Yeah.
But you know that $20 though could have got you McDonald's like 10 burgers.
Right? Years ago.
Crazy.
Yeah, I remember even not even that long ago going to any fast food place with a $5 bill, and you get yourself a meal.
I know, dude. It's crazy, man. I'm very curious to see what happens in the next like 10 years in terms of like inflation and stuff within the U.S. and like, because my sister, she can't even afford an apartment anymore.
No one can. That's our whole generation, which is crazy. I don't understand why people in the masses don't kind of change the mindset in terms of what. Let's just give it a couple of years of being prosperous, and then we can go back to the nonsense. You know, you hear all the hot button issues in the press, but really, like, no one really cares about that stuff. It's all a giant distraction. At the end of the day, it's like, is my life better now than it was before? And the U.S. has been trending negative for a very, very long time.
I don't think they realize like there's another way. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, this is it. Like kind of just like a defeatist mindset almost. Like we're at the whims to whatever happens, which is not what we're about here at Mexpat Dating. We're about creating your own destiny. So speaking of, not depressing stuff.
It's funny, I was just going to say, the American spirit's essentially dead. So I think this election, in a nutshell, would be a referendum on, do we want to rise from the ashes and become great and be the world ass kickers like we were kind of in the 80s, or do we want to just keep sliding into irrelevance? I always tell my friends here in Mexico that we're really just a dying empire, which every empire has a life cycle.
Yep.
It would have been nice to have a longer run, but it's really, at the end of the day, do we want to be the top dogs, or do you want to just kind of fade into irrelevance? And that's what the electorate will have to decide on in November.
That's true. That's deep, because we're all going to fade into irrelevance anyway.
Yeah, right.
So things that aren't irrelevant are hobbies, because those are things that, sit with your heart and you can do forever. I think it's really important to have hobbies, as you know, because otherwise you just kind of can become a robot with your day-to-day life. We have a lot of things that you guys can't see here, but what are some of your favorite hobbies, Jared? What do you like to do for fun?
Ooh, I get to actually have a lot more room for hobbies now. So kind of piggybacking on the last issue, I saw the writing on the wall of the way things were going. The harder I worked, the harder it was to get ahead. And the more money I made, the less money I brought home. Mm-hmm. So I did the whole geo arbitrage thing, came to Mexico. So now I can actually gross make less per month, which means that I can accept projects that maybe I wouldn't be able to afford to accept if I were back in the US. Creative things, fun things that allow me to upskill and then start to develop into other areas I'm interested in my professional life. And with the geo arbitrage, or just the significantly lower cost of living in Mexico, that frees up a lot of time for me to do hobbies. So I've always been into the fitness thing, the gym thing. I don't spend hours a day in the gym anymore. Really, I'm all about optimization, or the minimally viable dose approach to what is the minimum stimulus or input I can do, diet, training, recovery, whatever wise, to give me the maximum output, which for me now is just aging gracefully and maintaining the physique I built over the years. So that's a big hobby of mine.
Yeah, you're an old man.
Yeah, I know, right? Music more so is becoming a hobby. I've always had a guitar wherever I've lived and kind of noodled around every now and then. But again, now that I have more free time in my schedule, because I don't have to work the 12, 14, 16-hour days just to afford rent.
Right.
And I don't have to commute anymore. That gives you immediately a couple hours back in your day. Which is really great. I stack all my meetings, all my calls together to where I have large creative blocks, to where now I spent a few hours yesterday just kind of playing around, trying out new songs, figuring out new interpretations, possibly compositions of songs that I've always enjoyed playing, and that gave me a lot of pleasure. So, really, guys, yeah, I agree. If you hobbies are important, but if you don't have time in your day, try to find a way as creatively as possible to start carving out time to develop that other artistic side of yourself or physical side of yourself. And I always tell, like, my coaching clients, especially guys that are going through a hard time, like coming off a divorce or something, that you need to find some kind of hobby, because I don't even know what it is. I can't put it into words, but something happens to you when you're able to ideate something and then transfer it into a physical creation, something that's tangible, that exists in the physical realm. It just does something to people, and I've noticed that firsthand as well. And then my coaching clients, I always tell them, like, find a hobby. Even though I'm not artistic, I'm not musical. What'd you spend your time doing, when you were a kid, diddling around in your room or tinkering with an erector set or whatever? And then usually guys can come up with something. Mm-hmm. So those are probably my big two. I like cooking and eating and stuff like that, but who doesn't?
Yeah. You can ask what I like to do for hobbies if you want.
What about your hobbies?
Yeah, I like music too. I like guitar. Obviously, we both grew up playing guitar. Big music guy as well. So one of my passions was creating dance music. So I spent like 9 years making music, and it did kind of become more of an obsession. So I did have to take a step back from it, so it could be fun again. I really like just like going out and going for adventures and stuff. That's kind of why one of the reasons that when you invited me here, I'm like, dude, yes, because I knew there was going to be the opportunity to go walk around every day or go to a park. So I like kind of that exploratory type thing. I don't really like staying in the house all day. Like for me, that I just get like stuffy and like, so I need to be out and about and stuff. Right now it's raining, so it's unfortunately not the best weather to do it.
It hit me when I was out doing errands.
It poured hard, dude. It was like
it came down real quick.
Really hard.
Yeah, I actually sought refuge for a bit.
Yeah.
So I was like, even ordering an Uber and walking to it, I'm like, I'll just stay here on the porch and wait till it subsides.
Yeah. And then friends too. Like I love hanging out with people. I love socializing. We are social creatures, and it's funny because we were talking about being back in the States and like kind of that culture. Like I just like the friendships is like aren't like important there because everyone's working all the time. It's like it always comes second. So I wanted to come out here because I'm like, okay, I can finally like prioritize relationships. And obviously like what we're doing, like I as well have more free time because I'm making money online and I'm living that entrepreneurial lifestyle. So I have a lot of free time to connect with other people like in the same mindset and stuff. And so like at least a few times a week, I'm going out with somebody, going to grab dinner. We're either going out exploring, just walking around, doing cool stuff. And it's just so, I almost like got to remind myself like to not take it for granted because it's just normal now.
Yeah, exactly. It's just part of your lifestyle. And there are things I miss in the US every now and then. I miss, but it's all superficial stuff. It's all, I like sports cars and I like to go into the firing range on the weekend. So I miss some of those things, for cultural reasons or for logistic reasons. Like, Mexico City's like in New York. You don't really need a car here. Nope. And traffic's so bad that I prefer just sitting in Uber if I'm going anywhere. Yeah. So there's things I miss, but it's all kind of superficial stuff. Now that I've been kind of on the other side for so long, I'm starting to miss those things less and less. But I think you nailed it in terms of the U.S. being such an individualistic culture, and then people being so siloed and kind of in their own little bubble or shells. I remember it not really being that way, at least to the extent it is now. I know when I go home, a lot of people are just very antisocial, or they don't have social skills, and we have a whole generation coming up that were born and bred on the internet essentially. Right. And then recently they were locked down for Lord knows how long, so entire high school classes didn't graduate, they didn't have that experience, and that generation was already tech enabled. Or I tell friends of mine that have kids, like, your little kids are cyborgs. They literally know how to use a smartphone before they speak. They're robot people.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Dude, it's scary. And it's like, obviously we date down here, we date younger girls, and a lot of them are very, like, the phone is a part of, like, they're at one.
I said too, my phone's an extension of me. It's a remote control to the universe, which is crazy when you think about it that way.
So when I wake up in the morning, I stay off my phone as much as possible until, like, because I do have crave it. Like, I'm just like, I want to go to my phone, but I'm like, I discipline myself not to. And I find the days that I do that, and I do it for a prolonged period, throughout the day, I'm just not like needing to go on my phone. Like, I don't have that just like obsessive like urge to do it. And it's quite freeing, and it's quite scary too, because it just makes me realize how like addicted I am to that thing.
Well, it gives you a lot of time to yourself. And actually, going back to that hobbies question, I've been working on that too. I work with people all across different time zones, so eventually I still check my stuff and make sure schedules didn't get shifted around, or things are popping on the calendar that shouldn't be there, things are removed from the calendar that should still be on there, and all that stuff. But I found that in the mornings, at least, I'm super productive because I have a mental checklist of what needs to get done. I try to get it done as soon as possible, and then usually hit the gym about midday, and then the afternoons are free for creative stuff like this, stuff for music. And I've realized that too, that when you're not mindlessly scrolling through your feeds on social media especially, frees up a lot of time, energy, and bandwidth. And I actually had a business coach years ago. He coined a term for them, he calls them infinity pools. Mm-hmm. Because when you get, especially like, for example, Instagram, you get on your feed, or like TikTok, a lot of the younger kids, the kids are using it. You'll watch them. They're literally just mindlessly going through it. It's dope. It's a very small dopamine hit. Before you know it, you can string together a pair of hours, having not done anything really.
Right, and then you feel depleted. And like, whenever I do that, I don't want to talk to anyone afterwards. I don't want to see people. I just want to be like to myself, but I don't want to be by myself because I like I said earlier, one of my hobbies is being social. So it really is an addictive trap. And
let's get on social media.
Guys, turn off this video if you're watching this. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, go mindlessly scroll through Instagram. Follow us on Instagram.
So yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think we'll have to do another podcast on the power of internet and maybe internet addiction. But to wrap up the cast, we are going to talk a little bit about dating because this is a dating channel. So we've got a couple clients recently that are Asian. I as well. Asian, if you guys couldn't tell.
No. I mean, what, really?
Well,
you can put that in there.
You can put that eye, bro. That's too far.
No. It's always funny how, when you watch anime, how their eyes are huge.
They're white people eyes. They have white people eyes.
They're exaggerated white people eyes,
yeah,
which is hilarious. I'm like, do the animators not realize that they don't?
Oh, they know exactly what to do. I think that's why people like them because they have the Asian features, but the eyes are American, white, Western.
Well, I've heard even in your home country that the eye widening surgery is huge.
Girls get that.
Yeah, it's like a pretty common thing. They get it for their birthdays and stuff.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Nuts, dude. I like my small eyes, but.
Which, I've never looked at a Korean girl and be like, "Oh, you're gorgeous, but your eyes need to look more like mine." It's one of those things where no guy really cares about it. It's kind of amongst the girls.
Isn't that such a cultural like we've been talking about just how culture influences behavior and I mean. It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, we're not getting any eye widening surgery anytime soon. With dating with Asian dating, so it is a topic that a lot of our clients come to, and that we have that are just of Asian descent, and they struggle with finding that self-confidence. So you might be out there, you might be an Asian person, and you might kind of feel that just not belonging feeling. And I won't lie, it's difficult to get through. It's not like you're gonna watch this video and just be like, oh, okay, well they understand it, so I don't have to feel this way. But the hope is that we can inspire you to start taking action through whether it's going out there doing cold approach, online dating, ideally a combination of the two, and really kind of start to undo those, the webs in the mind that say I'm Asian, so I'm not good enough.
Yeah, I've had quite a few, even before you and I started working together, coaching clients that I'm from such and such country, such and such race, such and such ethnicity, height, background, income level, political affiliation. Really, I've always told my guys that those are kind of just mental traps or excuses that hold you back. Yeah. Sure enough, they do come into play. Obviously, there's certain countries that are where the dating population is more open to certain ethnicities than others. But really, since you are the architect of your life, you can kind of pick and choose and decide where to go. So I'm curious as to you, what's your experience been like dating in Mexico as an Asian? Have you found it to be a hindrance, or have you found it to be a bit of a benefit, or maybe a bit of both?
Yeah, great question. Definitely a benefit, solely a benefit. It's this is what I wanted in the States when I lived in the U.S. This kind of freedom. I go up to a girl and there's not that dead look in her eyes, oh my god, I'm talking.
They're always curious, at least, especially when you look different.
Yep. They're curious. A lot of them like anime. I'm actually not into the anime girls,
which is very funny. Yeah, because I've told you I've met quite a few Twitch girls, or those kind of gaming type girls, anime cosplay or whatever.
Yeah.
Those girls always love Asian guys, but it's funny that you're not into that.
Not at all. I need a little bit of Western.
Well, that'd be like a girl coming to me, she's like, "Oh, you're a white guy. You must be a cowboy." Nah, just normal dude.
Yeah, I found they're actually disappointed when they meet me and they're like, I'm just I don't like anime at all. So I think it's been I think what I've really realized is that my race no longer matters.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't matter at all. Like I can just be authentic.
And it never really mattered anyways. Again, on the surface, yes. Objectively, I've worked with coaching clients and actually done kind of market studies along the racial lines as it pertains to online dating, and there are very clear preferences.
Yeah.
But in terms of like your own internal state, you're like, well, if it doesn't matter, then you all of a sudden notice it doesn't matter anymore. The girls that aren't going to be into you because you're Asian aren't going to come on your radar, and the girls that like you are going to like you despite being Asian or.
Well, it did matter in the States. And that's like
yeah.
what I think a lot of people like that are in the States, if you're in the States or in like really Western countries, like there is like, you know, there's no one on the radar because women just do not.
There's a clear bias. Yeah.
They you know, Asians are not seen as a masculine race, especially in the States. And the women are so masculinized that they want like kind of the hyper, you know, like 6'5", blue eyes, trust fund, that kind of.
All-American boy.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, yeah, like I did so much, like I put in so much effort in the States, like that, and I got such little results that when you offered me to come here, I'm just like, yeah, like right now.
Yeah, I'll do anything. Yeah.
Right now.
Which was crazy because I've always had that room open to many people, and everyone's always like, oh, I'm going to come down to Mexico, like I'm going to do it. I'm like, all right, everyone tells me that, and then I think it was one call with you, and you're like, I got my ticket. I'm like, oh, yeah. This is happening, which definitely made me excited to work with you because so many people say, I'm going to do it, I'm thinking about it. How many coaching clients we have? I'm thinking about this. I'm like, bro, you've been thinking about it. When are you just going to do it?
Yeah. I was so excited, man. And, you know, I think a lot of Asian guys that come down here, one of our clients, you know, home shout out to Amir, he's having a great experience and just, we were talking last night because he's, like I take him out for cold approach and stuff. And he's just like, yeah, dude, like I'm not lonely anymore. And I was just like, dude, that's amazing. Like he doesn't have to sit with that feeling. And, you know, like, and in no way is this like a boo-hoo, like I felt lonely like in my life, but there's periods of my life where I felt very lonely just because being in the States, being surrounded by people that don't care about relationship, it's more about physical appearance, it's more about, you know, the superficial things, not so much about like who you are as a person. So coming down here and experiencing that, oh, girls just like me for me, and you know, obviously some girls don't. Of course, it's like not a black and white thing, but the ones that do, like, we have a relationship. It's almost like I'm like trying to like find out how to say it, but it's like that simple.
I think that's the way to say it. Like in the U.S., I can date, and I can date hard and be very effective at dating.
Yeah.
But here in Latin America, specifically in Mexico, yeah, like I actually have relationships. You can build a relationship, which a lot of people, they throw that term around, but they forget what it means. And it literally means to relate between two individuals.
Grammar.
Yeah.
And it's not like a relationship, like when you think about it in like in other contexts, it's like there's no toxic relationship. It's just like a relationship. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like,
well, you'll even find girls here. I've mentioned this before. So you'll see videos from other content creators like, oh, red flags, and women like, oh, for example, like if she has tattoos, if she's a single mom, or if she's had, you know, substance abuse issues in the past. You'll come across girls here that, you know, are born into very unfortunate circumstances, have had very, very what would otherwise be very traumatic experiences in their past. Whereas with the U.S. woman, it would completely destroy her and derail her. You'll meet young girls here like, oh yeah, you know, I grew up in this environment, you know, I didn't have the best family, now there's my grandma, like going to university, and they're like, they have their heads on right. Which to me, I think that leads to maybe something maybe a little more cultural, to where they do have those strong social ties, those familiar ties, and they're really into just building communities and groups and multiple interpersonal relationships, even outside the romantic context.
I do still have caution on that. Like if they do have tattoos, if they do have the hair dye.
Oh yeah. It is a red flag, but that doesn't mean they're not walking messes necessarily.
Correct, or at least
they're not out of destruct.
At least they keep it, you know, bottled in well. They know how to put a lid on it. Versus the US, like, oh my god, my dog died. Like it's just like an ordeal for like 7 months. Yeah. So we'll have a topic on like the red green flag debate, because you know some people I know, they're like, you know, you shouldn't really focus on the red flags, which I agree, but they take it to where it's like don't even care at all. I'm on the
camp. Don't do that.
Yeah, I'm like, you gotta, like, I always have in the back of my mind, and as soon as I see one, I put the person in a category, whether it's a male or female, like, and it's really just like to make sure that like keep my own sanity around it, because like in the past there's been people where they've exhibited really strong red flags, and as one of my mentors said, Joel, you took the red flags, you painted them green.
Yeah.
And it always imploded. And so now I'm just like, whoa, like I'm keeping you there.
Yeah, and when you notice them, yeah, that will start to surface more. At first, maybe it's a slight thing that, oh, okay, I kind of noticed that. Or like, okay, maybe it's now a slight annoyance. Okay, now this is becoming a recurring problem to where all of a sudden guys find themselves waking up one day and the crazy making is just hailing upon them. Like, how did I get to this point? It's like, well, you started off tiptoeing around a bunch of red flags. They got bigger and bigger and bigger. Then you're leaping over them, and now they've overtaken your life, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
I gotta pull that ripcord and just get rid of that relationship.
Yeah. So, I mean, we that's what we help guys to kind of identify that, so they can avoid those pitfalls and getting wrecked. So, speaking of which, we got a boot camp coming up here in October.
Yeah, a couple months. Ooh, this year's gone by quickly. Yeah, it should be a good one. We've done a couple in the past. We've helped out other content creators do them. We still take guys one-on-one. So if you're interested, hit us up, and you can certainly come down sooner. But I'm definitely looking forward to the boot camp.
Yeah, guys.
Want to explain more about it?
Yeah, it's going to be a week-long event basically, and what we're going to do is you guys are going to come to Mexico. You're going to we have a whole itinerary plan. We have like kind of lead up to like a big crescendo event at the end of the week. And really, we position it for the full week so you guys can come in and get some rest before we like start hitting it hard with cold approaching and Instagram and trying to build all that stuff. Because what we found is we've supported a boot camp that was only a 3-day weekend, so they came down for 3 days, and the feedback we got was that, okay, I came down, I was jet lagged for 2.5 days, and then when I felt better, the boot camp was over. So we wanted to avoid that as much as possible, and that's why we're going to do the full week. You guys can hit up maxpatdating.com, and it's going to have more details on exactly the itinerary, what you're going to get out of it, what we aim to teach you in the experience. We're going to be doing a lot of approaching. We'll be doing a lot of working with your online social media, getting that optimized. You're going to get to meet a brotherhood of other guys like us. That just,
there's a bunch of us down here. We're building the tribe here in Mexico City. We got some full-time guys. We have guys that do the hybrid model that live in the U.S. or another country, but they come with a regular degree of frequency, and then we have guys who are in the process of completely expatriating down here, and then guys that are 100% full-time like us. So come in, join the mix, meet the family, and have some fun, level up your love life in the meantime.
Definitely. Yeah, we just chill, like we just kick it, and like what we'll find, like we'll go out for like a cold approach session, and we'll just end up grabbing dinner and like just basically talking about mindset, all the cool things, and it's really like it's gonna have its own life of its own, of course. So, before we talk about this, we'll check out the link down below. It'll explain everything. We're really excited about it, and we'll cut it here before we talk too much more about it, because we could talk about it for hours here.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then as well, like if that's not something that's feasible for you right now, or just you're not able to come down because of work and stuff, then we invite you to reach out to us for one-on-one consulting. Well, 2-on-1 consulting technically. And if that's something that could be of service to you, we do only work with high-income individuals. So if that's not you, there's definitely other guys out there that could probably help you for a lower price point. But we want to work with guys that kind of have their stuff together on the financial end, so they can really dedicate, or you can dedicate your time to working on your dating life. Because as you guys know, you're in sales. The best clients are usually the ones that are
ready to go. They want to do. They want to work.
Exactly. And
it's kind of like the dating thing. People used to criticize me. I used to get hate comments in the videos, like, Jared only dates girls that like him. Like, ta-da, bingo, that's the point. Like,
wow.
I guess I don't need this channel anymore. But for clients too, you guys probably know this from your businesses, your professional lives, that it's nice to work with people that want to work with you. Yeah. It's just an effortless relationship. It's a great collaboration, and those guys make a lot of progress very quickly.
Yes, sir.
Like you said, they're dedicated, they're invested, and they have skin in the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with that guys, again, we're excited to work with you if you fall into that category. If not, no hard feelings. Like, what we suggest is just keep working on your money, keep building up your resources, find your avenue in this life, and then maybe one day our paths will cross and you're ready to do that. But yeah, other than that, I enjoyed this little talk, and
I did too. It was great. Yeah, guys, definitely let us know what you think. As you can see, we're trying out some different things on the channel. Figured that maybe every now and then we'll take a little step back and make sure that we are real live human beings with our own thoughts and perspectives and way of showing up and interacting with the world. So
Totally.
let us know, good, bad, ugly, anything in between, what you thought of this. You know, like, comment, share, subscribe, refer to a friend if you feel like this can add value to anyone else. And thank you for tuning in. If you made it this far.
Yeah. The last thing I'll add before we cut here is that a lot of guys, I think, that we might give off the impression that, like, oh, we're good at this because we spend 24/7 doing this. Not even like close to that. So know that you are gonna have to dedicate some time in the beginning to get good at the skill, but eventually you'll get to do it. You won't have to spend hours doing it. You're not gonna become like addicted to freaking going out and cold approaching. Like, you'll just do it when you can. And you really, like, we want to teach you this so you can supplement it to your life, not have it be the focus. And that's kind of what our lives are about too.
Yeah, you're really just building a skill set. So it's like anything. It's like learning how to ride a bike. Yeah, you're maybe gonna fall off a few times, get some scrapes, nicks, and bruises, what have you. But eventually, you can take off the training wheels, and you can just do it on your own.
Yeah.
And I haven't ridden a bike in a while, but when I pick one up, maybe I'm a little wobbly for the first couple hundred meters, but after that, I'm good to go. It comes right back. So it's essentially what you're doing as well. You're building a new skill set. It will take some time on the front end, but once you have it down, like Joel and I are both at the point now, like, it's down.
Yeah.
You know, you guys see my head going down the phone a little bit. It's raining like crazy here, so I'm trying to navigate logistics for getting a date to meet up here once we finish cutting this video. But it's just a part of your life. You really, once you have a simple, scalable framework, methodology, or blueprint down, then you just kind of intuit what to do. You just execute on the fly as opportunities come up. You don't have to consciously look for them.
Correct.
Opportunities are abound. They're around you all the time, especially in the dating market. Even if you're still back in the U.S., maybe in a small town, there's less opportunities rather than here in Mexico City, where one of the world's largest cities, you never run out of new opportunities.
No, that's
people coming and going, and then there's a vibe here. There's a lot going on in this city. Anytime you leave the house, you will meet a girl who will be into you.
Yeah.
You just have endless opportunities. Now you just need to know how to identify them, what to do with them, and how to lead those opportunities into creating experiences that you actively are pursuing as a guy. And once you get that process down, it's pretty much automatic.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. So we're here to teach you that, guys. Before we go on to 17 more topics, I think we'll cut it here. So
let's do it.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.